Aggie, I think you're kicking us off with the front of the Sunday Express, a similar theme across a lot of the papers, nearly all of the papers, which is talking about the leadership contest that hasn't started yet or been declared, but the prospect of one and what Wes Streeting has said about Brexit.
Indeed. So the sort of, should we call it the shadow leadership contest, which is very much underway, and Wes Streeting, the former Health Secretary, declaring in a speech yesterday that he wanted to rejoin the European Union at some stage. Andy Burnham, who, of course, is running in that by-election in Makerfield, or we think is set to run in the by-election in Makerfield. He hasn't actually been officially selected yet. Being a bit more circumspect with his language about Brexit. He said previously that he wanted to rejoin, but now he's sort of saying that he thinks there is a case to, but doesn't particularly seem to want to talk about it as much, probably because Makerfield, where he is probably set to run, is sort of 60-ish% leave back in 2016. So he wants to be quite careful there. And the Sunday Express is basically talking about that. So they've got quotes from various different Brexit campaigners who fear a betrayal from the Labour leadership rivals vying to outdo each other to replace Sir Keir Starmer. They've got a quote from one trade expert who said it's like lemmings deciding the safest place is to jump off a cliff. And Jacob Rees-Mogg, the former leader of the House, former Conservative minister, said that this will not go down well in the heartland. They've also got a quote from former Brexit Minister David Jones, who says that Starmer would sell Brexit out in a stroke if he thought it would save his skin. So pretty punchy quotes there on the front page of the Sunday Express.
It's going to be fascinating how Andy Burnham fights this by-election if he does get selected to run. So that step's got to go through first. Because as we know, as we've heard from Wes, and I mean, Keir Starmer was a Remainer as well and won to the second referendum. So all of this is going to be pulled back up.
Absolutely. And Andy Burnham yesterday was asked about it, as Aggie was saying, and he said there is a case for rejoining the EU at a later stage, but I'm not going into it right now, which, I mean, is quite funny given this by-election has got a direct impact on the person who could be running the country. So I do think there is a case for him to actually explain what he wants to do. And I think people at home looking at this, you know, they're going to hear Wes Streeting talking about rejoining the EU, Andy Burnham, and they're going to think, here we go again. Westminster wants to reopen the Brexit wars. And I think the public is absolutely exhausted by it. I think we moved on from that. And it's pretty clear that Wes Streeting yesterday was speaking to Labour members rather than the country who...
You think it was a deliberate move to sort of appeal to Labour members but also make it more difficult for Andy Burnham to think?
Yeah, 100%. And it's kind of like last roll of the dice as well for Wes Streeting, who obviously resigned. There was talk about whether he had the numbers to challenge Keir Starmer, because it would have been much easier for him to challenge last week because Andy Burnham wasn't in the, you know, in the runners and riders because he was outside of Westminster. So he's definitely talking to Labour members, and it's just going to be a massive deal. Brexit is going to be right at the centre of this campaign, with Nigel Farage throwing everything at it, as he has previously said.
Polling does suggest, though, recent polling says that between 50 and 59% want us to rejoin the EU, and 58% of Britons have regret, they're calling it, which is
regret.
Yeah, regretting the decision to leave. So look, regardless of what Andy Burnham eventually says, this is going to be the thing that's being litigated going forward, isn't it?
I think exactly that. And in a way, it's not surprising, because the polling for what Labour members have, even those who voted Brexit, now I'm sure they have even more regret because of the situation that they are in. So, you know, as Martina says, Wes Streeting very much talking to Labour members yesterday. And I think we will continue to see him talking to Labour members over the next however many months it ends up being.
Oh, sorry. No, I just think that, you know, rejoining the EU, of course, you know, Wes Streeting making the case for it. It's not easy. It's not a magic reset button. There are things that the EU will want from us. And are we prepared to rejoin freedom of movement, for instance? Are we prepared to have higher payments into the EU budget? So these are all questions that these people who want ultimately to be number 10 have got to answer.
And Europe may well be changing over the next year. I mean, if Jordan Bardella comes in France in the next couple of years, it could be a completely different bunch of people you're negotiating with.
Absolutely. absolutely. And yeah.
And also, what's the plan? Is there going to be another referendum? Is that how we would
just go
then
back in, yeah.
rejoin the EU? Would they say that if they win an election on that mandate, then that's enough of a mandate to rejoin the EU? I think there are massive questions, which I'm sure we will be
Easy for him to say
those.
yesterday.
We're now going to be talking about a lot.
Yes,
in the next few weeks,
exactly.
aren't we? Let's turn to the Observer now. Their front page, they're doing, under this new ownership, they are doing quite dramatic front pages, aren't they? They've got a picture of Larry, the Downing Street cat, who I think most people are familiar with now.
My son met him.
Saying he's basically
for the first
outlasted
time
6
yesterday.
prime ministers.
Yeah, very happy with the mouser.
And trailing on their front page, a lot of articles inside about Keir Starmer's future and what a leadership challenge, if there is one, will turn up. And, I mean, what are they saying about what the mood is behind the scenes in Westminster?
They're saying there's rage, anger. This is from Keir Starmer. He feels betrayed by cabinet ministers. You know, he feels he's the one that changed the Labour Party and then won a landslide, big majority. He also feels that some of the people that have turned on him, you know, he was the one that put them into cabinet in the first place. And Tom Baldwin is saying that there's this stubborn defiance coming from Keir versus total despair. And I think that's what's reflecting in other articles as well, where we're seeing the Mail on Sunday saying that Keir Starmer will set out a timetable for his departure, and the Sunday Times saying that actually he's up for the fight and he will stand in a leadership contest. So total chaos, I think. There's no clear answer. I can't see how he gets out of it. Of course, he wants to have a legacy, so there are things that he will want to do. But again, like as we were discussing previously, the government is in a complete paralysis in the next few months. Completely consumed by this Labour civil war, which has got an impact on the cost of living, borrowing costs, market confidence, and so on. So it's not a good time to be number 10.
And take us to one of those pieces that Martina was talking about there, inside the Mail on Sunday. Dan Hodges talking about what you were mentioning, the fact that Keir Starmer, contrary to other reports, he's saying that the Prime Minister is prepared to stand down and set out a timetable.
Indeed. So Dan Hodges has a quote from a member of the cabinet saying, Keir understands the political reality. He realises the current chaos is unsustainable. He simply wants to do it in a dignified way and in a manner of his own choosing. He will set out a timetable. But then it also has a quote from someone else, a senior Starmer ally, who says Morgan McSweeney, who of course is the former chief of staff in Downing Street, has been urging him to hang on. He's arguing if they can show a tight contest or that Andy's on course to lose, then there is still a chance. I mean, it's also extraordinary that we're back talking about Morgan McSweeney, who apparently is advising the Prime Minister again, not in person, but sort of lots of people ringing him up for advice. So Keir Starmer is getting all of this contrary advice, it seems, but lots and lots of people in the cabinet do think that he should set out some sort of timetable. And it is, you know, it depends what you read and who you speak to as to what on earth is going to happen next. But also some suggestion that if he were to wait until Andy Burnham, if indeed Andy Burnham does win that by-election, then it would look like he'd been forced out, so maybe he would have announced a timetable before then. But I think it's really difficult to work out what he's going to do. And in that Observer piece too, there's quotes about how, you know, how upset he is about Ed Miliband and how they used to be really close mates and how he feels that he's been betrayed by various members of the cabinet. So you can just see it's all basically an utter mess.
Yeah, indeed. We'll move on to the story inside the Sun, Martina, but just your take on Keir Starmer. It's often said that we never quite know who his allies and who his tribe is within the party, and you know, this idea that he's feeling sort of betrayed by some of those friends. I mean, I guess Keir Starmer would be thinking maybe they weren't my friends in the first place anyway.
Well, there's a line there that says in Westminster there's now lots of shattered friendships and broken trust, and I think that's probably how he feels. As I was saying, you know, he probably feels that he put all these people into cabinet, they won the general election, and now they're all turning their backs on him. And it's also interesting about Shabana Mahmood, Home Secretary, in the Observer. They're saying, you know, she was the one last week who, according to several reports, and it wasn't denied by her allies, that spoke to the Prime Minister and basically told them that he's got to set a timeline. And I think that's what really started. That's what made Keir Starmer actually questioning whether he should do so.
I think that we should move away from politics, finally.
Just for a little bit.
Just over a minute. But there's one article that I think has taken my interest anyway. Online hookups are out of date. Talk us through it.
Well, they say that, the love-hungry singletons are ditching dating apps to old-school face-to-face hookups, according to this article. In recent years, the 4 biggest dating apps have actually lost more than 1 million users, and that people actually prefer meeting face-to-face. And I think
wasn't the whole problem that it was hard for people to meet face-to-face in the wild, as they call it, rather than on, you know, that's why they turned to online in the first place.
Yeah, well, they're saying that there's a dating fatigue, and 8 out of 10 people actually, dating apps are mentally draining, emotionally draining.
Can imagine.
But I do wonder if this is more to do with COVID, and people actually going back to work and meeting people in real life and just feeling that going to dating apps is not for them.
Aggie, I mean, can only be good that people actually wanted to see each other in person before, swiping left in real life.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess you
you
just go to like a bar and just speak to someone. I guess that's how
nice,
you'd...
wouldn't it?
Yeah, I guess that's how one would do it. I mean, just to link this and politics, one Labour MP said to me this week, we need to stop treating the country like a dating app and swiping when we don't like a Prime Minister.
Perfect.
Very good.
Aggie, Martina.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for this morning.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?